guys, I am back with the content that I said I was going to give the league in the previous video, which ran a bit long, so I cut it short. So it's Tuesday morning, it's absolutely miserable outside, so I thought what better way to cheer myself up than to go through the UK Invitational Dynasty League rosters and slag them all off to hell. So what I've basically done is I've gone through each team, I've gone through each positional group and gave them a rating out of 5 stars. I've then obviously combined that to give an overall team rating. It's all my opinion, obviously. We all have different opinions in fantasy football, it's what makes it so fun. I wouldn't expect everyone to agree with all of my opinions. I might also chime in what I think I would do or try to do for a certain team in a certain situation. People like having their fantasy teams talked about. People generally like talking about the fantasy team, so I'm sure everyone will enjoy listening to bits about their own team. So to kick us off, I'm going to be looking at Seahawks team. So if I just open that up so you can see it. There we go. So going through each positional group, so I'll start off with the quarterbacks. So obviously Seahawks has got Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson as his 2 starters. Probably as good a combination of starters as you can get in a Superflex league. Seahawks troubles start with his depth and his backups. He currently only has Tyrod Taylor, who, let's face it, at the moment might not start a game this year yet. We don't know what's happening with Sean Watson, so the depth isn't great. However, Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson as your 2 starters, I gave that 4 stars, 4 star out of 5. There's not going to be many better duos in the Superflex league than them 2. So obviously the ratings that I'm giving positional groups, it is going on starting quality and on depth and backup as well. It's not just going on just the starters or sort of the overall position group, because I mean you could have 4 average starters, which probably isn't as good as having 2 top 10 quarterbacks and then maybe 1 starting backup. So again, it's all subjective. It's all my own opinion. Moving on to the running backs for Seahawks. So he has J.K. Dobbins, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, and he also has Gurley, who's currently without a team, Philip Lindsay at Houston. He might actually get a bit more running this year, but I mean we'll have to see. Picked up Darius Guice, Jordan Howard, who to be honest I don't think he'll make the cut. Le'Veon Bell again. So basically I think what Seahawks has got there is, we've yet to see it from Dobbins. You would think that being on a run first offense with the Ravens, he should have a good shot, but obviously Lamar Jackson takes away a lot of the rushing attempts and the rushing touchdowns as well. So he finishes a running back 2 in his rookie season. You'd like to see him improve on that. I think it might be safe to say to pencil him in for a running back 2 season again. I don't anticipate him breaking into the top 12 running backs this year. Aaron Jones, however, I think again you'd have to lock him in for a running back 1. Absolutely fantastic running back. He's had such a great career. To say he was quite a late round draft pick, wasn't he? Yeah, he's had back-to-back running back 1 seasons. I think at worst you're going to get a running back 2 out of Aaron Jones. So again, you could be looking at 2 running back 2s. However, I would say that Aaron Jones, you can't pencil him in for a running back 2 season. I think you're going to say he's going to be a running back 1. Josh Jacobs, I'm not particularly a big fan of at all, even though he's had a running back 2 and running back 1 season in his first 2 years in the NFL. I think when he came out in 2019, I had him as the 2nd best running back in a particularly weak class. I had David Montgomery as running back 1 that class. I think I had Miles Sanders as running back 3. Again, he's another one that I'm not particularly keen on. To be honest, I think it's more a product of the Raiders more than himself. That team just, I don't know what it is, man. Gruden just doesn't know what he's doing, it just seems like. I think looking at his first 2 years, you could say, yeah, well, pencil him as a running back 2. Is that going to win you a championship? If you have Dobbins and Jones as well, if they both finish as running back 2s, even though, as again I said, I do think Jones will finish running back 1. Is a running back 1 and 2 running back 2s enough? Probably is enough for your running back core, yeah. However, I do think it's not the strongest group. So I think, in my opinion, of Seahawks running backs, you're looking at possibly 1 running back 1, but you could also be looking at 3 running back 2s, and really he's only got 3 startable running backs. So it's not a great group. It's not the best group. It could be a hell of a lot worse, obviously. It's definitely not the worst group in the league. But I think this might be Seahawks' weakest position group. because of that, I gave it a 3.5 star rating. Now, moving on to wide receivers. This is possibly the strongest wide receiver group in the league. So, Seahawks has Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill. He's got Deebo Samuel, and also hiding further down on his roster, Mims, not too fussed about. Mike Williams, decent backup. You don't really want to be starting him. Michael Thomas, however, someone you definitely want to be starting. If he's fit, you've got to start him every game week. Same as Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill. So he's got 3 basically potential wide receiver ones there. When you're starting 2 wide receivers and you've got the flex, so he's basically got 3 what could be wide receiver ones, and he's got Deebo as well, coming back from his injury. So he's got 4 very good wide receivers there. Overall, I think that's a really strong position group. I think it's probably one of the strongest in this league. Because of the potential that he's got there to have 3 wide receiver ones, it's a 5-star rating for me for these wide receivers. Moving on to the tight ends then. Seahawks obviously has a massive advantage straight away having Travis Kelce as his number 1 tight end. That's, automatically going to give him a good positional group rating for tight ends. We do only start 1 tight end, however, it is a tight end premium league, so having one of the top 5 or 6 tight ends is a massive bonus on the other teams in the league. Looking at backups and depth, Seahawks has Zach Ertz, who is probably on the downside of his career. So I'm honestly a bit surprised he's still in Philadelphia. I think all signs are pointing to Dallas Goedert being the starter there and getting the majority of the work. And Njoku, again, a bit of an enigma, massively talented, highly rated coming into the league from college, just hasn't lived up to it. Whether that's because of the team or not, who knows? But obviously Cleveland also have Austin Hooper, so again, how reliable is Njoku going to be as a backup? Tonyan's the one you're looking at. He was a bit of a surprise last year. If he can carry that on, then Seahawks positional group at tight end for me would be a 5-star rating. Because we don't know what's going to happen, it could have been a 1-season wonder. I'm going to have to give him 4.5 stars rating for the tight end. You've got Travis Kelce, who cares? So Seahawks team obviously win now. Made a deep run into the playoffs last year, just missed out. For the total team rating, I've given it 4.25 stars. The only thing really with Seahawks team is the lack of depth and backups, reliable backups that is. There's not a great deal there. You would hope, if you're Seahawks, you would hope that you don't need them because your starting lineup is just so strong. And if everyone performs the way you think they're going to perform, you're going to be in the playoffs guaranteed again. So it's one of the strongest teams in the league. We'll see how strong it is regarding the rest of the league by the time we get to the end. So the next team up is Dan Bird. So let's crack on with that. Let's open up Dan Bird's roster. So starting off with the quarterbacks. So we've got Justin Fields, fresh incoming rookie. We've got Matt Stafford. And then we've got Gardner Minshew. So basically we've got one guaranteed starter for the season. Minshew, I can't see Minshew starting the season. Whether he's going to stay and back up in Jacksonville or not, because I actually think Minshew could be good enough to start somewhere else in the league. So whether someone trades from him or not, I don't know. But as it currently stands, Dan Bird has got one startable quarterback right now. I do think Dalton will start for Chicago. However, it won't take long. I don't think it's going to take long before Fields starts playing. So by the end of this season, he's going to have 2 starting quarterbacks. Possibly 3 if Minshew goes somewhere else, but I think what you're looking at there is you've got two quarterbacks. One of them obviously very young, has the potential to be a fantasy franchise quarterback for Dan Bird's team. He's got no starting backup and he might start the season with one starting quarterback. So I've given that a 3-star rating. That's with the potential of Fields. If Fields were to start pretty early on and he lives up to the hype, then obviously that rating is going to improve straight away. Stafford's probably got a good few years left in him and he's now on a competent team. However, whether that means he scores as many fantasy points or not is yet to be seen. So 3-star rating, but that's got potential to go up more. I don't think quarterback is a position that Dan Bird's got to worry about too much right now, apart from not having a startable backup. Moving on to running back, Dan Bird has got Mostert, Kamara, James Conner, Devin Singletary, Bernard, Michelle. Right, okay. So he's basically got Alvin Kamara and then a load of question marks. Mostert, is he going to be the running back 1 in San Francisco? Is it going to be a 1A, 1B or 1A, 1B, 1C, as they tend to use a lot of running backs? They also tend to get injured quite a lot. James Conner, again, is he going to be the starter in Arizona? It's looking like Chase Edmonds is going to be the starter. Connor's obviously also, it tends to be on the injury reports quite a lot as well. Singletary's not done anything really, to be fair, in his first 2 years. Looking at running back 3, I don't think he's going to supplant Zach Moss. He doesn't really get enough receptions to make up for it, although this year he did have 38 on 50 targets, so it was, again, but he scored less points than his rookie year, so overall it's quite a, I won't say it's weak, but it's got a lot of question marks around it due to who's going to start on the teams and injuries. Backup wise, there's nothing really there. It's got one top class running back who's probably going to be in his last, you would maybe think last effective season. He's 26 now, but I mean, yeah, look at that. He's been a running back 1 in PPR anyway, his entire career, so 4 seasons of running back 1 numbers. Is he going to do it for a 5th season? I don't think there's many running backs who have done that, but you would expect him to be up there anyway. So overall, I've given it a 3-star rating because he has got Kamara, and as it stands, you would expect Mostert to start. Connor should get a little bit of work. It's just how much work he's going to get and how long is Mostert going to survive. And then beyond that, there's not really a lot. Anyone who's looking for playoffs in a fantasy league, you don't want to be starting Devin Singletary. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes. Moving on to the wide receivers, we have got Odell Beckham, Tyler Lockett, not a lot else there. Kuti, Valdez, Lazard, St. Brown, Gordon, Callaway. Yeah, there's not a great deal there, to be fair. Obviously, Beckham and Lockett are pretty solid receivers. Beckham obviously been declining a bit in the last couple of years. His last, well, he had a wide receiver 2 season in 2018. His last wide receiver 1 season was 2016. You're talking 5 years ago. So I think if you're being positive, you might get wide receiver 2 numbers out of Odell Beckham. It could surprise you. You know, obviously he's a great talent. It could surprise you and get wide receiver 1 numbers. However, I wouldn't bank on it. And to be honest, with Lockett as well, who actually had a really good season last year, finished as a wide receiver 1, but it's the first time he's ever done it. I'm not entirely sure he'll get back there again. I think possibly Dan Bird could be looking at 2 wide receiver 2s. And then behind that, he's really got nothing. These 2 guys are obviously a bit older as well. Looking at that, to be fair, it's probably Dan Bird's, maybe his weakest position group. I'm going to give that a 2-star rating. If Lockett, I mean, obviously, this is all, again, it's all my own opinion, and I could be wrong. Beckham and Lockett could both go and have wide receiver 1 seasons, and that could just make the 2-star rating look laughable. However, is it likely? I'd probably say not. Are them 2 receivers going to win you a championship? Probably not. Are they going to get you into the playoffs? Possibly. They could get you in there if they perform at the right times. But yeah, overall, it's not a great position group for Dan Bird. Moving on to tight end, we've got CJ Uzomah, who I think is looking like he could be the starter in Cincinnati, but with all the targets they've got now, and with Burrow actually looking like he's not having a great pre-season, is that someone you want to rely on starting? Jonnu Smith in New England, again, another injury, low ankle sprain. Hunter Henry's out as well, which would have helped Jonnu, but in this case it's not. Although he is a good tight end, Jonnu Smith, so I think he finishes in standard he finishes a tight end 1, but a low tight end 1. Again, it's not the best group. Just beyond that, Jack Doyle possibly will have some games week to week, but are you going to know when to put him in, and are you going to put him in over Jonnu? Probably not. Then Akins, Nick Boyle. Yeah, to be honest, I think basically it's Jonnu or bust. There's nothing else there for him. I'm not entirely sure. I generally don't trust New England position groups anyway. So for me, I think that's really quite a weak tight end group. I'm going to give that a 1-star because beyond Jonnu, there's nothing. And we don't know what Jonnu's going to do. He's on a new team. Patriots obviously got Hunter Henry and Jonnu when they like to try and run 2 tight end sets. But yeah, it's not a great group for Dan. Also, the team, Dan's team's a bit older, a bit of an older looking team. Apart from Justin Fields, who obviously we're yet to see on what he's going to do in the leagues, we just don't know. There's not a lot there to inspire you with confidence. Overall, I gave this team a rating of 2.25. That's with all the position groups added up. I honestly think if this was my team, you need to go into a full rebuild almost ASAP. I know Dan has started to do that. He has started to sell off some assets for picks. So his pick situation looks a lot healthier now than it did maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. In my opinion, I would auction off Kamara and get as much as I could for him for either future picks or youth prospects. I'd do the same with Beckham and Lockett and try and get as much as I could. I don't think you're going to have too many buyers for people such as Connor, although someone might, maybe later on in the season, if he does get some game time and start putting up some points, throw a pick for him. I'd possibly even maybe try and get rid of Stafford and see what you could get for him. It needs a full-on blow-up, I think, because there's only really a couple of starters there that are going to take you anywhere, and you're not seeing a lot on the bench. I mean, maybe Marcus Callaway can have a bit of a breakout season. Maybe one of the Green Bay backups or second-string guys can have a kind of another breakout. Coutee and Shepherd are serviceable. Aguilar was serviceable. Watkins is going to do nothing again, as usual, be injured. Yeah, I don't think there'll be too many people who would disagree with that. Actually, that team needs a full-on rebuild. It needs blowing up big time. The first thing I'd be trying to do is get rid of Kamara and get whatever I could for him. Youth prospects and picks, or both, ideally. Sorry, Dan. Right, so the next team I'm gonna slag off to hell and get a lot of crap for is created username. So let's just open up created usernames roster. So starting with the quarterbacks, we have got Josh Allen, and then we have got Jordan Love, Mitch Trubisky, Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Trask there as well on the taxi squad. Okay, so what we've basically got here is we have got one starter. We have got the backup for Josh Allen. I mean, to be fair, the starter is a bloody good starter for fantasy purposes, as well as obviously improving the NFL as well. But then after that, we've got Jordan Love, who isn't going to start this year. I'm doubtful personally whether he is going to be a starting quarterback of the NFL. It's not looking so right now. Dwayne Haskins at Pittsburgh, if he stays in Pittsburgh and if he beats out Rudolph for the backup position, which he should do, because I think Haskins is better than Rudolph. Roethlisberger has got a bit of an injury problem, especially later on into his career, so there's a chance that he could start for a few weeks there for created username. Kyle Trask, obviously a bit of a development quarterback. He's not going to start with Brady this year unless Brady gets injured. Then maybe Trask will start, but I wouldn't be banking on that. So we've got one starting quarterback, which isn't great in a Superflex league. However, it is a good starting quarterback. I'm going to give created username quarterback position group 3 stars because of Allen, and he has got Trask, and he has got a potential spot week starters as well. Obviously, that can be improved upon. But that's something that created username is going to have to try and address if he wants to make any serious kind of pushes for playoffs and championships. Okay, so looking at the running backs, we have got Zach Moss, Darrell Henderson, Naheem Hines, and we've got Kerryon Johnson, Trevion Williams, Marlon Mack, Justice Hill, Dante Foreman, Codry Ollison. So not a great deal to work on there, to be fair. Darrington Evans as well, I think he's just got injured actually. So what we've basically got is Zach Moss should be the starter in Buffalo, I imagine. Singletary will probably get the majority of the receptions, even though I did say earlier it's not a lot of receptions. Moss doesn't tend to receive the ball. Again, I'm not a big fan of Moss. However, I think even last season it did surprise me a little bit because I didn't even think he'd play over Singletary, to be fair. So there is some potential there. But yeah, I mean, the week splits aren't great, are they? I mean, you're looking at a running back 2 maximum, I think, there, and I think more likely possibly a running back 3. Josh Allen, I think, does tend to obviously take some of the runs away. I'm not entirely sure about his rushing touchdowns. Just have a quick look at that. Yeah, 8 rushing touchdowns as well. So last season, 9 the season before, 8 the year before that. So yeah, he's going to vulture the touchdowns as well. So Zach Moss isn't an ideal starting running back. Created username has, however, probably looked into a starting running back in Darrell Henderson for this season with Cam Akers going down. Again, not the biggest fan of Darrell Henderson. It's yet to be seen if he can actually do it as a starting running back, if he can take the workload. I suppose we're going to see this season, depending on if he splits workload at all. But I think Creative Username got quite lucky there. Nyheim Hines again, not really someone you want as a starting running back for you. He's got him in the flex spot, but I mean, you potentially start Nyheim Hines over Zach Moss, and if Cam Akers hadn't got injured, I mean, Darrell Henderson wouldn't be in the team. So, and then apart from that, Marlon Mack as well. So, I mean, you've got Jonathan Taylor, who finished last season absolutely brilliant, is from all accounts absolutely standing out this off season. Whether Mack or Hines see too much work, it's not going to be both of them, and if it is both of them, then that's limiting your upside as well. So again, it's not the best position group. It's not, to be fair, it's not a very good position group. I'm going to give that 2 stars. I think Darrell Henderson, if he does start as a running back 1, and if they give him the bulk of the work, then in that team he's got the potential to be a running back 1. So that's really the only saving grace from this position group. Okay, so moving on to the wide receiver group for Creative Username as well. We have got Juju Smith-Schuster, Brandon Cooks, Corey Davis, Tyler Boyd, and then you're looking at John Brown, Isabella, Gabriel Davis, and Kadarius Toney. Okay, so again, it's not a great position group. Juju, we've all seen his potential. He's back in Pittsburgh, so he's got a bit of competition there for targets. I do think Juju is going to have a better year this year than he did last year. I do think actually he's the better talent out of all the Pittsburgh receivers, so we'll see how he pans out this year. Brandon Cooks on Houston. Brandon Cooks has always had a potential to be wide receiver 1, and I think in his first 3 or 4 years he had 1,000 yards after his rookie season. So his second, third, and fourth year, I think it was. In fact, yeah, he's only had 2 seasons where he hasn't had 1,000 yards, and it's basically been a perennial wide receiver 2. And I can't see that changing, depending on whether Deshaun Watson starts or is suspended for the entire year or he's traded or whatever's going on with him. I think you're looking at wide receiver 2 numbers for Brandon Cooks. I think because of the competition in Pittsburgh, you're probably looking at wide receiver 2 numbers from Juju as well. Corey Davis showed a little bit last season. He hasn't lived up to the hype when he came out. I think when he came out in the same draft as Mike Williams, and them two was in the conversation with all them running backs that came out at the same time, CMC and Fournette. Not lived up to that at all. He's gone to the Jets, where their wide receiver core isn't great, so you would hope that he'd be able to step up and be the wide receiver 1 there. But again, by all accounts, he's struggling a bit in pre-season. I think, again, you're looking at top-end wide receiver 2 numbers. I actually think Creative Username's best wide receiver for this year could be Tyler Boyd. However, again, he's on Cincinnati, who have got Higgins and Chase. So is he going to get too much work in there? He didn't actually have a great season last year. No, he finished as a wide receiver 3 basically. He's very serviceable though. He's definitely someone you can put in your flex. Probably start him as a flex every week. But again, he's not going to be that sort of groundbreaking wide receiver 1 that you're probably going to need if you're going to be going for a championship. So I think you're looking at 3 wide receiver 2s there in Cooks, Juju, and Boyd. Davis, probably good backup, good depth player to have. If you need, he's going to start. So if you get an injury or you need him on a bye week, he's decent enough to plug in. I think just whether you get lucky or not and have one of his good weeks. And then you've got Gabe Davis basically. It obviously looks promising, but again, I mean, his rookie season was okay. It wasn't like anything amazing, but there is promise there. So if he kicks on again this year, he could be, well, he's going to be another decent depth and bench player. I think overall it's a pretty weak wide receiver group. There's no wide receiver 1 there. Juju obviously has the most potential to do that, but I think with the competition on that team and with Big Ben as his quarterback, it's probably not going to happen this year. I think he definitely needs to go somewhere else. So I think three wide receiver 2s, I want to give that a 2-star rating. It really needs addressing if you're going to try and get into playoffs or push for a championship. But looking at the whole team, I don't think it's going to be a team that's going to be pushing for a championship. And the last position group with tight end, we've got Tyler Higbee, and then we've got Dawson Knox, Tyler Croft, Mo Alley-Cox, Morrow, and the Denver backup. Yeah, and that's it. Higbee's probably going to be serviceable, but he's not going to be a great player as your tight end 1. He had that half-decent tight end season in 2019. Really struggled last season, as a lot of people predicted. Finishing as tight end 16-17 really isn't isn't anything to shout about. After the top 5 or so tight ends, the scoring drops right off. So even finishing as 8 and 9 the year before, his best season wasn't amazing. He's not going to be the worst tight end. He's not going to be the worst starting tight end in this league. He's going to be nowhere near the best starting tight end. I think he's going to struggle to get in, again, top 5. The amount of competition that there is in LA for receiving targets is probably just too high. And then looking at backups, I don't really see anything that's I don't think you're going to be comfortable starting any of these tight ends on a bye week or due to injury. Overall, it's a pretty weak tight end group, but because Higbee should be serviceable and be a decent, I think he'll be a decent starter, especially in a tight end premium scoring league. I've given this position group 2 stars as well. So overall then, I have given Created Usernames team 2.25 stars. I think you can see the semblance of a team that can go places. I think if this was my team, I'd just wanted to continue building this team. We've got an excellent quarterback in Josh Allen. We just need to get another quarterback in there, probably the most valuable position in a Superflex league. You've got Juju, who should be a decent wide receiver for the next few years, with the upside of a wide receiver 1 potential. Running backs are probably going to need to be addressed. The tight end position is going to need to be addressed as well, and there's not too much depth on that team. Moving on to the next team, which is going to be the newcomer to the league, Riggs, who took over a rebuild team. So let's see how this is looking. So at quarterback we have got Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Kyle Allen, Jake Fromm, Nick Foles, Jared Goff. So we've got there what should be 3 starting quarterbacks as it stands right now. We've got Hurts and Lawrence, who should 100% be starting this season. Goff will also obviously be starting. It's looking like a great young position group. Obviously Goff, depending on how he performs this year in Detroit, might not be around too much longer. You'd imagine that Lawrence is going to be around for a long time. Hopefully Hurts can kick on this year and put up some good fantasy points that'll keep him around as well. So overall, I think this is a pretty good position group. I've give Riggs 4 stars for this position group. I think it's a pretty good one. Moving on to the running backs then. Riggs has Damian Harris, who is looking like he could possibly be the starter in New England, for whatever that's worth. We've got James Robinson, who is the presumed starter in Jacksonville. Travis Etienne hasn't been getting a lot of snaps, but to be fair, I think this is an Urban Meyer thing. I think he's trying to run the NFL team like he would do in college and not give the freshmen immediate snaps. Whether that's going to work or not in the NFL, I don't think it is, to be fair. Seems a bit amateurish. I think you get your best players on the ball. Whether Etienne is better than Robinson or not, I obviously no idea yet, but I think you need to start using him. But regardless, I think Robinson's going to be fantasy relevant this season. He might not have the same highlights of the season that he did last year, but I think he's definitely still going to be serviceable. And then moving on from there, we have got James White, Kelly, Rashad Penny, Carlos Hyde, Benny Snell, Benjamin. Okay, so there's not too much behind there. Riggs also obviously has Cam Akers, who is out for the year now. So he's got that to look forward to next season. Hopefully he can come back from the Achilles injury, which I think nowadays are actually more detrimental to a player, especially a running back, than an ACL tear. So fingers crossed that Cam Akers can come back strongly there. So looking at that, we've got Akers ready to come back next year. We've got Damian Harris and James Robinson, who should definitely see playing time this year. It's hard to say where they're going to end up. If Harris does take the bulk of the work in New England, and if Robinson stays around in Jacksonville, I think you could be looking at running back 2 numbers from both of them, which isn't the best, but it's definitely not the worst position to be in. And after that, there's not a great deal for Riggs. Actually, I think Riggs also has Kylan Hill on his taxi squad. Now, I do like Kylan Hill. I think he's a very good running back. He's an older prospect, and I was really surprised how late he went in the draft. And he has gone to Green Bay, so he's behind Aaron Jones. However, I think if Aaron Jones gets injured, Kylan Hill is the one that you're going to want to own. So I think that's a great handcuff to have. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts getting some game time throughout the season. It's not the best position group, it's not the worst position group. I've actually given it 3 stars. It's all going to depend on how Harris and Robinson perform this year. If they don't get much game time, or if New England doesn't perform too well, especially in the running game, then it's going to look a lot worse than it is. But he's got Akers to come back. I do think Kylan Hill might get some time as well. So there's quite a bit of potential there. This is where it starts to go downhill a bit for Riggs, in my opinion anyway. Wide receiver position. So we have got Mooney and Ayuk, and then we've got Parker and Beasley. Beasley actually, I think, had a sneakily good season last year. However, I think when you're in a rebuild, a 32-year-old wide receiver whose best season was a wide receiver 2 year, it is actually a wide receiver 3 year, isn't it, that he had last season. probably not ideal. However, he's definitely a serviceable backup and depth player. And then we have got Cephas, who has got some potential in Detroit because of their sort of lacking depth chart. Enkeel Harry, never going to be a thing. He's trying to make a comeback this year. I can't see it happening personally. And then we've got the taxi guys. So Ayuk obviously has got potential to be a very good wide receiver. Mooney has been showing a lot of promise and he's getting a lot of praise. Can he be a wide receiver 1? I don't think so. I think he's got potential to be a wide receiver 2, definitely. So he finished 50th in PPR last year, 55 in standards in his rookie season. I think he's definitely got potential to improve and be a wide receiver 2, but I can't ever see him being a wide receiver 1 type player. So apart from Ayuk, you've got Parker, who had that one half decent season. He actually finished as just inside the wide receiver 1 position. Obviously a lot better in standard due to the touchdowns. Is he going to do that again? We all think so every single year, but it never tends to happen, I don't think. So we'll see how that works out. So I think if you're looking at Mooney, Ayuk and Parker as your main wide receiver positions, it's not a great position group, which is why I gave it a 2-star rating. Now, obviously, Riggs is in a rebuild, so it's not the worst thing in the world. He's been going for the young receivers. So he's got Ayuk, he's got Mooney. If Mooney can become a wide receiver 2, if Ayuk can stay up around wide receiver 2, possibly even wide receiver 1 with his yak ability, then it could be the starting of a good position group. Obviously, Riggs has just got to keep developing this team through the draft. I think he's done a great job already, turning around from what it was. It's looking like a much better team already. So onto the tight end group, we have got Gronk, and then we have got is it Joshua DeGuara? Josiah DeGuara, Jared Cook, Will Disley, and that's where we're at. So I think Gronk and Jared Cook are actually a pretty decent group to have. Gronk ain't going to be a high tight end 1 anymore. That's where did he finish last season? I know he started off a bit slow, weren't used as much, but he ended up finishing as tight end 10 in PPR. So he was a tight end 1, but he's not going to get back up to them heights of the tight end 1. But I think he's going to be serviceable. Jared Cook also has been sneakily good for, I'm sure it's been for the last 2 or 3 years. A bit more of a disappointing season last season, obviously change of quarterback going on there, but 2 years before that he was a tight end 1 and quite a good one as well. The only issue with Riggs' tight ends are that they're both old. Obviously Riggs isn't going to be going for a championship this season, so them two are probably 2 people that I've been looking to move on. I think he's got Gronk on the block anyway, and I suppose obviously he wants to be thinking about starting. He wants someone to start. I think Disley's quite well liked. He hasn't done anything yet, done absolutely nothing yet, but I think he's always seemed to have had a bit of hype. I know he's had a couple of injuries, so we'll just have to see how the season goes. So while on paper it looks like a pretty decent tight end group for a fantasy team, I don't think it's one that Riggs' team really needs right now. So I gave Riggs' tight end position 2.5 stars. Basically solid fantasy tight end production he should get from them 2 guys. It's not really what his team needs. I'd be looking to try and move him on. So overall, Riggs' team graded out at 2.75 stars. As I said, he's obviously in a rebuild. I think he's done a great job already. He just needs to carry on that rebuild through the draft and trying to get young prospects who have got some potential. The next team I'm going to talk about is my team. I was just following the list of the standings until some waivers ran, so it's got a bit mixed up now. But going on to my team, so if we can just open that up. So at quarterback we have got Aaron Rodgers, Trey Lance, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, and then down in the taxi we've got Felipe Franks, Sam Ehlinger. So obviously I've got Rodgers and Brady, who are going to be guaranteed starters to start the season. Roethlisberger as well, as long as he's not injured. And Trey Lance, I imagine will be backing up Jimmy G to start the season, but again, I don't think it'll be too long until he gets the team basically. I imagine, depending on how the 49ers are doing, but at some point in this season, I imagine Trey Lance will become the starter. So I don't think that's too bad of a position group, to be fair. I've got 4 quarterbacks. I've got 3 that can start immediately at the start of the season, and then 1 where halfway through the season I should be able to start as well. And I've also got a couple of developmental quarterbacks in Franks and Ehlinger. Franks I'm not too hopeful about, to be fair. Ehlinger neither. I do think Ehlinger's better than Eason, so he should be the backup in Indianapolis, and who knows what's going to happen with Wentz, so we'll see what happens there. So overall I gave my quarterback position group 4 stars. Moving on to the running backs, we have got Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, and then we have got Mike Davis and then basically a load of backups or hopefuls that we can maybe get some workload throughout the season. Freeman, Keyshawn Vaughn, Jake Funk, who you never know might get a bit of workload this year if Darrell Henderson doesn't step up. Corey Clement, who looks like he is going to be the backup to Barkley, who has had injury problems. I don't think it's guaranteed that he's going to start the season yet, so we might be able to get some joy out of Corey Clement. And then again, just developmental, so we've got Jared Dokes, Jamar Jefferson. So I think looking starting position wise, I think Henry, Chubb and Swift should be absolutely fine starting. Henry, you would hope, will have a running back one season, could be running back two. Nick Chubb, again, you would hope will have a running back one season, but again, could be a running back two. Swift, we've really yet to see. I'm hoping that with the problems that Detroit have got with their entire roster and offense in general, which isn't great, I'm hoping they'll kind of lean on Swift a bit. So again, I'll be hoping for a running back two season out of him. So I could have 3 running back twos, or I could have 1 running back one, 2 running back twos, or 2 running back ones. There's a lot of possibilities here, but I do think overall I feel pretty confident with it. The group as a whole is getting a bit older now with Henry and Chubb. This could be their last season to really shine at the top of the game, so that's something that I have got to look out for and maybe try and address depending on how the season goes for me, or at the end of the season depending on whether I make playoffs or get into the championship game, etc. But again, I think it's a pretty decent group, so I've gone 4-star. You would imagine that I do like the players that I have on my team, so maybe the star ratings that I've given my team might be a bit inflated. I've tried not to be too biased with them, but obviously it's guys that I do like. So moving on to the wide receiver position, we've got Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin in the starting positions at the moment, and then for depth we have got Keelan Cole on the Jets, Traquan Smith, Jacoby Meyers, a couple of rookies, Stevenson, McMath, Anthony Schwartz, and we've also got guys like Kellen Harmon, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm quite hopeful for Peoples-Jones and Meyers. I think Meyers especially will be a good plug-and-play guy. I think he really improved on his rookie year last year. It was nothing spectacular, but he did get 729 yards and still had no touchdowns in the NFL, and then he is looking good in pre-season as well, so I'm hoping he can again take the next step. I think people tend to forget as well, because we've been blessed a bit recently with rookies performing so early on in their careers, that wide receivers generally take a couple of years to break out and get up to the level you want. So I'm hoping Meyers is one of them guys. Peoples-Jones flashed a little bit last year as well, so I'm hoping he can make another step up. I've kind of decimated my depth a bit. I had quite a lot of depth up until a few weeks ago when I decided to make a couple of trades to go and get some better starters. I do think I've got enough with Adams, Brown and McLaurin. There's potential again of 3 wide receiver ones there. Realistically, I think I'm probably looking at a wide receiver 1 and then 2 wide receiver 2s, or maybe a wide receiver 1, another late wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. So again, I've given that position group 4 stars. Adams is getting up there a bit. McLaurin was already getting up there a bit as well. He was a bit of an older prospect. AJ Brown obviously still quite young. Hopefully he can continue to develop into a great player, so I'm quite happy at the moment. So I also give that position group 4 stars. I know you're all laughing now. Moving on to my tight end position group, and this is where it gets a bit more dubious for me, I believe. So we've got Noah Fant, who I absolutely love and is a great prospect, but he's still yet to live up to that hype. Now, whether that's down to Denver's quarterback play or target competition or just himself is yet to be seen. I do think he's a really good prospect, and again, tight ends generally do take a few years to develop into really good fantasy tight ends, so we'll see. Behind Fant, we have also got Chris Herndon, who was just completely bombed, and we've got Dalton Schultz, who had a great season last year with Jarwin out injured, and I am still kind of hopeful that he's going to be the tight end to own over Jarwin. And then on the taxi, we've also got Brevin Jordan and Calvin Granson, who is also getting a lot of hype, so I'm kind of hoping that he's going to be one of them breakout tight ends in the rookie season, so we'll see. But again, it's not a great group. Where did Fant finish last season? So in PPR, he was tight end 8. He only had 3 touchdowns, 673 yards, so it's not great. He's only 23. I do think he can take the next step. It just needs some better quarterback play. I believe it's a quarterback play. I think that's all he needs. And he has got to try and get rid of the niggling injuries as well that keep him off the field. So overall, I think my tight end position group, I gave 2.5 stars. It's not the best position group. It's probably the worst one on my team, to be fair, which gives me an overall rating of 3.5 stars. I think that's probably about right, if I'm being honest. It's probably above average in the league. not the best in the league by by a good amount. I don't think there's a couple of teams, two or three teams at least that are better than my team. It's a team that should get in the playoffs, and it's a team that should be challenging for a championship. Got pretty close last year, so hopefully this year we can make that nudge over. So moving on to the next team, and we have got Techno Vikings, Rob's team. Looking at Rob's quarterbacks, if we just open up Rob's team here, we have got Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, Zach Wilson. It's got PJ Walker on there as well. That was a recent pickup. And Ian Buck. So really what you're looking at there is you're looking at Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, and then Zach Wilson as starters for the year. Zach Wilson's going to have to start, I think. I can't see any reason he doesn't start unless he completely bombs out. I actually really like this quarterback group. Kyler Murray is going to be a top fantasy player this year, as he has been previously. Kirk Cousins is unspectacularly solid. I'm sure Rob won't mind me saying. Two great quarterbacks to have starting in your lineup for a Superflex league, and then he's got Zach Wilson as well behind there. Now I've given this a 4-star rating for this position group because he's got the 2 starters. He's got the backup that I can put in at any point in Zach Wilson, who, like I say, should be starting for the Jets. If he isn't, then it will hinder Rob a bit because he won't have that backup quarterback to just plug and play for injuries or bye weeks. If Zach Wilson hits and he's a good fantasy quarterback and a good NFL quarterback, then Rob's position group is going to go to 5-star. It's that good. So moving on to Rob's running backs, and what we have is Najee Harris, we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we've got Alex Collins, Brian Hill, Kareem Hunt, Trey Sermon. So you expect that Najee Harris is going to start. He's more or less guaranteed to start for Pittsburgh this season. You've got CEH. CEH obviously not as explosive, or he wasn't as good as people expected him to be last year. Don't know how good Najee Harris is going to be yet because he's not been in the league, and that's the same with Trey Sermon as well. Although you would imagine that Sermon should get some time. We know what Kareem Hunt is an outstanding running back 2 on the Browns. I mean, he actually outscores Chubb some weeks. If Chubb goes down, Hunt's an immediate running back 1, so it's a great player to have on your roster. It's a pretty good group overall. I wouldn't say it's outstanding because we don't know what Najee is going to do this season yet. We don't know if CH is going to kick on. We don't know exactly what Sermon's going to do, but we do know what Hunt is. If all these guys hit, it's going to be great. If CH improves from last season, if Najee jumps straight in and gets a full workload and they give him a lot of carries, he's going to be a running back 1 more than likely, or running back 2 really, probably high end running back 2. That's if he hits, and that's if he does get the workload. So I can't go too crazy with a rating for this. I would give it a 3-star rating. There's a lot more potential there than a 3-star rating though. It's not the worst group to have, it's not the best group to have, it's just full of potential really. Moving on to Rob's wide receivers, this is where Rob really shines. Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, CD Lamb, and moving down you've got Chase Claypool, you've got Jamar Chase, you've got LaVisca Chenault. I mean, what a great receiver group to have. Justin Jefferson, the best rookie season ever. DJ Moore is a great player. He's just suffered with quarterback play and also with the fact that Christian McCaffrey takes so many targets away from the receivers. CD Lamb, who had a very good rookie season, and he's looking to kick on as well. He's a very good player, one that just about everyone likes and everyone would love to have on their roster. If Chase Claypool can kick on as well, it's going to be difficult for him. I've mentioned before, there's Juju there, there's Deontay Johnson there, and Big Ben is declining. And no matter which way you look at it, he's not the same player he was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So Claypool still really had a lot of potential rather than realised potential, but he had a great showing last year. LaVisca Chenault came on really strongly towards the end of last season in his rookie year, and now he's got Trevor Lawrence as well, and he's having a really good pre-season. So there's a lot of prospects and potential, and there's a lot of hype for him at the minute as well. So this is such a good receiver group, and they are all so young. We all know how Rob started in the draft that we had, the start-up draft. It basically started with this young rebuild, and after the first season, which was obviously a bit disappointing last year, but it was to be expected, Rob's playing the waiting game, and it's starting to bear fruit now. I gave Rob's wide receiver group a 4.5-star rating. The only thing really knocking that is because they're just still so young. Justin Jefferson was a wide receiver 1 last year in his rookie year. DJ Moore could be a wide receiver 1. Hopefully CD Lamb can make that jump to be a wide receiver 1. But again, there is quite a bit of competition in Dallas, and it's whether Dak can live up to his reputation after the injury last year as well. But there's just so much potential there. It's just such a great receiving core. So moving on to Rob's tight ends now. Again, Rob has got another young prospect in Kyle Pitts. And he's also got Irv Smith, who is projected to have a big breakout year this year with Kyle Rudolph gone. We have got Swaim, Ferkser, Sample, Conklin, Arnold. Got Bryant there. So we've got plenty of tight ends. Apart from probably Irv Smith, and then you have to say Pitts because of the hype and the draft capital and all that. There isn't really a great deal behind there. But he's got 2, or you would imagine 2 with Pitts. But I mean, you never know what's going to happen. Tight ends, like I said, generally do take a few years to break out in the NFL and become fantasy relevant. Irv Smith really needs to do it this year. If he's going to do it, it's got to be this year. Because if he doesn't do it this year, every year that he misses it, it's just the percentage chance of him doing it is decreasing. You have the odd players that'll just randomly come out of nowhere and do it, like Logan Thomas and Darren Waller, but they're like so far and few between that you really hope that he just come out and do it this year. I am quite bullish on Irv Smith. I've not got a clue on Kyle Pitts. Don't know what he's going to do in Atlanta, so we'll just have to see. But I think overall he's got at least 2 guys there that he'll be able to plug and play into his tight end starting position on a weekly basis and get some production out of them. So I'll give Rob a 3-star rating for his tight ends. So overall, Rob's team rating that I've given is 3.5 stars, which was the same as my team as well, I believe, in the previous one. So Rob's got a great chance this year of making the playoffs. A lot of his potential on his team, but they're all so young that he's got time. If things don't work out in certain positions or for certain players, he's got time to make some moves and try and get some ones that can work out for him, because his team is just so young and it's just so full of potential that if they all do work out, this team is going to be scary for this league. It's honestly going to be such a great team. It's now Wednesday morning, looking a bit brighter outside, so we'll move on to the next team, which is Matt T90. Matt pulled off a trade yesterday with Bear, so I've just had to quickly readjust what I was rating Matt's team. So starting off with Matt's quarterbacks, let's open up Matt's team so we can see that. So we've got Daniel Jones, we've got Tua, Taysom Hill, Jacob Eason and Sam Darnold. So we've got starters. So we've got Daniel Jones and Tua, who will both be starting this season. After that, Sam Darnold possibly starting this season. I think you'd be looking at Sam Darnold starting. Jacob Eason, who is probably in the backup fight with Sam Ehlinger behind Carson Wentz, and Taysom Hill, who I suppose still has got a shot of being the number 1 quarterback in New Orleans, but I would imagine it's going to be Winston. I can't imagine that they'll go with Taysom Hill this year. So although Taysom Hill does still get some game time, it's probably not going to be the amount of game time that you'd want to put in your quarterback slots. So yeah, we've got the starters there. There's nothing too exciting. However, they are both still young. Is Daniel Jones still going to be in New York next season? Is he still going to be a starter in the NFL? I think we'll know that after this season, depending on how he performs, because he's not looked that great, let's be honest. So there is still some room for movement here for Matt. He has got some young quarterbacks, so he's got enough to start this season, but it's not going to be anything too special unless Tua can really turn it on this season. Because of that, I have given Matt's quarterbacks 2.5 stars. So it's not saying it's bad. It's what half of 5 stars, so it's probably about average. Which I think, looking at that group, I think people might agree with. So on to Matt's running backs, we have got Kenyon Drake, we've got Travis Etienne, then we have got Tariq Cohen, Ito Smith, who's just been cut, Kenny Gainwell, DJ Dallas. Which Johnson is that? Too many D Johnsons. Jude Johnson. Okay, I think he's currently not on the team as well. And then we have got Larry Roundtree and Caleb Huntley, is it? Yeah. Okay, so we've got Travis Etienne, who's obviously the highlight of that group. Now, we don't know how much game time he's going to get. We don't know what he's going to do with the game time that he does get. So we can't really project too much. Obviously, it was quite a high rookie draft pick in league, so you would expect that there's some value there. Kenyon Drake is going to be behind Josh Jacobs. I don't think it's going to be a 1A, 1B type situation, although I do think Drake will get some work, so it's something that you might want to have in a flex spot some weeks. I don't think it's someone you really want to be starting, but I think as we move further down into the depth, we've got Tariq Cohen, who at the moment is injured again, and Kenny Gainwell. Really, Gainwell might get some work this season. I'm not a big fan of Miles Sanders, so you might see Gainwell get some work, although again, he quite a later draft pick, so there's not really a lot there to get too excited about apart from ETN if he does supplant James Robinson, or if he becomes part of like a 1A, 1B. So there's not a great deal there, to be honest. Apart from Drake and ETN, they're really the only two in his starting lineup that might see any game time. So not really many backups that I can call, and the depth's not great. Possibly get something out of DJ Dallas if he starts performing a bit in Seattle, but we'll see. So I think to be honest, this is Matt's weakest position group, so I've given this 2 stars. Lots of room for improvement there. Now, Matt's wide receivers is a completely different story. I mean, you can see already we've got Hopkins, Golladay, we've got T. Higgins, Raygor, Gallup, Amari Rodgers, Nico Collins, T.Y. Hilton, KJ Hamler, Jamie Brown, Christian Kirk. And then we've got some developmental guys as well, such as Strachan and Cornell Powell. So Matt's actually really deep at wide receiver. The only issue that I'm really looking at for Matt's team with regards to his wide receivers is that I think Matt might have started to go into a bit of a mini rebuild or a rebuild, which I think is the right call. He did that with Barkley, moving Barkley on, and in that scenario, Hopkins and Golladay are going to do nothing for his team. I'm sure Matt is thinking about and trying to get these guys moved on. It's exactly what I'd be doing. Hopkins and Golladay, as you're starting 2 wide receivers in a fantasy league, is brilliant. And then you've got T. Higgins, who flashed last season. Yes, he's going to have more competition now with Chase, and obviously there's Tyler Boyd there as well. And Mixon does get a few targets in Cincinnati. But then we've got, for depth, you've got Rondale Moore, you've got Raygor, who I'm doubtful whether he can produce anything. Quite a bit of a letdown of a rookie season. Gallup is a good wide receiver, again buried on a bit of depth chart in Dallas. Nico Collins has got a bit of hype, a little bit of hype around him. He's in Houston as well, so there's not a great deal of targets already taken up there, so he might be able to, if he can get on the field, you might get something out of him. T.Y. Hilton's obviously in a downswing of his career. He has still been performing in spots though, so he's someone else that you could start. KJ Hamler flashed a little bit, he's got the speed. He's doing quite well in pre-season as well. Everyone's hoping Jamie Brown can produce this season as a rookie in Washington, and he's got Fitz, who's just going to lob it up everywhere, so you never know, he could start putting some points up straight away. And then we've got the letdown that is Christian Kirk as well. That's a really good receiving group, plenty of depth there to put on for bye weeks, injuries. It's a really good depth. So I've given Matt 4 stars for his wide receiver group. Just as I alluded to before, I might want to try and move Hopkins and Golladay if Matt is going into a mini rebuild or a full rebuild. They're 2 guys that he'd definitely be looking to move on. So Matt's tight ends, we've got Evan Engram, we've got the one-hit wonder Logan Thomas, or it might be a one-hit wonder, and then we have got, for depth on the bench, we've got OJ Howard and Hayden Hurst. So again, that's plenty of depth there. OJ Howard's obviously been a bit of a letdown and he's now behind Gronk as well. Hayden Hurst moves to Atlanta, didn't do a great deal. Where did he finish last season? So yeah, basically around tight end 10 and 9. So it's not a bad season for him, to be fair. But again, it's not gonna win you any leagues. But that's solid. I mean, you can probably start him, and you might be happy week to week with starting him. Engram's obviously got a lot more receiving ability, but he's been dropping off ever since his rookie season. Logan Thomas, fantastic season last season, finishes as a tight end 3 in PPR. It was really his yardage that let him down in standard, I think, because his 6 touchdowns isn't too bad for a tight end. So Matt's got a good position group there. I've actually gave Matt 3.5 stars for his tight end group, providing that Thomas can carry on from last season. Engram, you can start week to week, possibly also Hayden Hurst as well. So that's a pretty good position group there. So overall, I've given Matt's team 3 stars. So it's definitely, I'd say it's one of the better teams in the league. It's probably in the top half of the teams in the league. However, I don't think you're going to win a championship with this team, and I think you might squeeze into the playoffs. Matt was really unlucky last season with the team he had. I think everyone expected Matt to be in the playoffs, and before the season started, I think a lot of people might have said that Matt would be one of the contenders to win the league. So it was really unfortunate last season. I think he's done the right thing. He's put it into some kind of mini rebuild, and it's definitely the right way to go. Moving on to the next team, we have Danny Redders. So let's get his team opened up here and see what we've got. So at quarterback, we've got Deshaun Watson, Ryan Tannehill, Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco, Jimmy G. So as far as a quarterback positional group goes, this one's pretty decent. This is all going to depend on what happens with Deshaun Watson this season though. Is he going to miss any games? Is he going to play a full season? If Watson misses maybe the first 6 games of the season, I think Danny might be alright because he's got Jimmy G, who I also imagine he's going to start at least probably the first 6 games of the season. So at least he's got a filler there, someone he can put in. So Jimmy G's bye week is week 6. Watson's is 10, so that's fine. That's what that probably means you're gonna, if he does get suspended for, say, I don't know, maybe 6 games, you're gonna get another game missing out, and then for his bye week. Tannehill is a pretty solid starter. He actually had a pretty decent season last year, finishing as the quarterback 8, so that's not too bad at all, and I actually think that it might repeat that as well, maybe go even better. They've got Julio Jones now as well, so that's going to take coverage away from the likes of AJ Brown. Although the Titans have been a bit of a run first team, and why wouldn't they be with Derrick Henry? That might change a little bit more this season though. I think they might have to start throwing a bit more, but still Tannehill's going to be a great starter to have, especially in a Superflex league. We've got Dalton, who I imagine might start the season in Chicago. You're not going to get a great deal out of him. He's not someone you really want to be starting. I think I'd rather be starting Tannehill and Watson, or even Tannehill and Jimmy G. But that depth is there. It's something you can fill in. It's probably better than putting in Tristan Jackson, for example. So it's a pretty good group. If it's all going to depend on whether Watson plays or not, or how many games he plays, on how good this group is. But for this quarterback group, I've given Danny 3.5 stars. That's probably me being a bit leaning towards Watson missing some game time. I think if Watson plays a full season, that group's probably 4 stars. But it's a bit uncertain at the minute, so we'll see how it goes. So on to the running backs then. We have got Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery, and then basically we've got Zeke's backup in Tony Pollard, Jerick McKinnon, Kalen Ballage, and then not a lot else behind that. Kenny Nwangwu. So starting wise, absolutely fantastic. Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running back prospects to come out in recent years. Struggled a bit at the start of last season, as many rookies did, to be fair, in that weird COVID year. Came on really strongly towards the end of the season, and is absolutely flying in pre-season. Everything that I've seen and everything that I've read is absolutely flying, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Jonathan Taylor have a fantastic second year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the top 2 or 3 running backs finishing the season, if they use him properly. And obviously it depends on if Wentz stays injury free and if Wentz plays up to his potential as well. Quarterback play obviously hinders the running back as well, because if the quarterback can't throw the ball, and the defence is just going to stack the box and the running backs have got nowhere to go. We've got Dalvin Cook, who's probably, you might think that he could be in the last year of like the top of his powers. For them two to be a starting running back tandem, especially this season, I think that could be a league winner. Them 2 guys right there could be a league winner. And then you've got David Montgomery, who had a fantastic year in his second year last year in the NFL, finishing as running back 4 in PPR, 6 in standard. The touchdowns just weren't there. If he could have got a few more touchdowns, if he can have the same type of year as last year and just add some more touchdowns, it will have an absolute fantastic year. So, and I do like David Montgomery. As I said, I think he was my running back 1 in that class when he came out with Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders. I think he's far the better running back. If he had gone to a team with a better offense than Chicago at the time, he'd have done a lot better in his rookie season as well. I think a lot of people underappreciate him. I'm sure Danny agrees with me on that. Hopefully now we get to see exactly what type of player he is and what he can do on a regular basis. But that position group is really good for them 3 starters. However, after that, it's lacking a bit. If Zeke goes down, you've probably got a running back 1 week to week with Tony Pollard. That's probably the saving grace of this, because McKinnon and Ballage, I don't envision them doing much, if anything, at all. So, because of that, I have give Danny's running back group 4.5 stars, because Taylor, Cook and Montgomery could light it up this season. We know what Cook can do. We've seen kind of what Taylor could do at the end of last year, and I think he's going to be massively improved this season. Montgomery had a great season last season, and that offense should be getting better this year, so we'll see. But that running back group could be a league winner. Okay, so for wide receivers, we have got Adam Thielen, Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, and then we're going into AJ Green, Randall Cobb. Wes Watkins is getting a bit of hype at Philadelphia. Antonio Brown. Jalen Darden has got a little bit of praise this off-season as well. Okay, so this is possibly, looking at it straight away, this is probably is Danny's weakest position group. Thielen's had some great years. He's getting up there a bit now in age, and Justin Jefferson's broke onto the scene. Is he going to be able to continue that? Allen Robinson has had a couple of decent years. Who's going to be the quarterback? Who's going to be starting quarterback in Chicago? So he's finished as a wide receiver 1 actually the last 2 years in PPR. It was probably standard, he was at 12, so it was maybe just inside, so he's a low end wide receiver 1. in half PPR. I think, to be honest, that might be where he's going to be around again, unless Justin Fields starts and starts taking the league by storm. I don't envisage Allen Robinson to be a high-end wide receiver 1. I don't envisage Adam Thielen being a wide receiver 1 this year. To be honest, he was not far coming off borderline in last season, and I think Justin Jefferson's going to take a step forward as well. And if we're hoping Irv Smith can move on and start doing something as well, I think Thielen's going to be the one that loses out. But we'll see. I mean, this is all just my opinion. Robert Woods, they've got a quarterback upgrade because they've got Stafford. There is still a target competition there, so he's been a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. There's not a great deal behind that. I don't know how much we expect from AJ Green. Quez Watkins has got a bit of hype. Antonio Brown will be good to start in some places. But apart from that, there's not a great deal. I think this is going to come down to luck, because what you could have here is you could have 3 wide receiver 2s, and I don't think that's going to be enough to guarantee you a championship. You'll win enough games, and I think we can all say that Danny's team will more or less undoubtedly be in the playoffs, especially with the running backs and if Sean Watson starts. But the wide receivers might concern me slightly. It's the same as we've had with another couple of these position groups, to be fair. You could be looking at 1 wide receiver 1 and then 2 wide receiver 2s. But the thing is, with these wide receivers, they're all being lower end wide receiver 1s. I think what you're really looking at is you're looking at 3 guys who are going to be high end wide receiver 2s, and that could be a problem for winning a championship. But again, it's not the worst group in the league. There's definitely some potential there. They have all performed before, so hopefully they can do that again for Danny. I think all 3 of these guys would start on just about every other team in the league. Not all together, but you would get, all three of these guys, if it was all on separate teams in the league, they'd be in people's starting lineups. So that's a good thing. Beyond that, again, there's not much depth, so if you get an injury, you're going to be down one of these players, and there's not a lot behind it to fill back with. And I think mainly because of that, I've given Danny's wide receiver group 3.5 stars. Okay, moving on to tight end for Danny, we have got Mark Andrews, Gerald Everett, Donald Parham, Jacob Harris, Jimmy Graham, and we've also got Hunter Bryant, Colby Parkinson, Kenny Yeboah. Okay, so basically we've got the one top range tight end. He's probably one of the top 5 tight ends. But then behind that, there's a bit more question marks. Which one of these guys, if Andrews misses time, which one of these guys is Danny going to be able to plug in and think, yeah, I'll be okay with the 10 points he gets me. Everett's moved to Seattle, but he's not been playing recently. He's not been practicing. He's got an injury. Jimmy Graham did pretty decently last season. I think he was probably a tight end 1, but a low end tight end 1 maybe. Yeah, so probably like tight end 12, so low end tight end 1. So yeah, he's got, if Andrews goes down, he's got someone he can plug in. If Andrews goes down for the season and misses a lot of game time, I don't think Danny will be too happy with his backups. If Andrews plays all season, then he's got that spot locked all season. I've given Danny's tight end group 4 stars because Andrews is the top starter, and he has got Jimmy Graham and potentially Gerald Everett that I can throw in spot starts, and he's done the right thing, and he's took lottery tickets on tight ends. Whether Kenny Yeboah can do anything in New York is yet to be seen. So overall, Danny's team I think is one of the better teams in the league. Total rating wise, I have given him 3.75 stars. So at the moment, that is the second best rating we've had. So Danny's team's definitely going to be up there at the end of the season. He's obviously in win now. The only things that I might be looking at if I was him was possibly try and upgrade that wide receiver group, but with not a lot of depth behind, if he starts getting injuries, his team might come undone a bit. Okay, moving on to the next team then, we have got the Gambler. So if we just open up the Gambler's team, starting off with quarterbacks, we have got Carson Wentz, we have got Baker Mayfield, we've got Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock. Have we got anything in taxi? No. Okay, so we've got the starters, providing Wentz is injury free or he can play while injured. We've got Wentz, Mayfield starting, and then we've basically got the Denver quarterback, whether it's going to be Bridgewater or Lock. So we've got 3 starting. We should have 3 starting quarterbacks there for this season. So that's obviously a good start. He's got 2 guys he can plug in, and then he's got the backup as well if for bye weeks and injuries. It's not the most exciting group of quarterbacks. However, they should be pretty solid. I think Mayfield should be pretty solid. He can have some erratic weeks. So yeah, you're talking some weeks 10 points, 6 points, 7 points, 5 points, 7 points. So he's not the most consistent starter that you want in your lineup. Carson Wentz again has been a bit inconsistent, but he's on a new team, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and see what he can do. And then we're going to have the Denver quarterback, whether that's Bridgewater or Lock starting, and with their skill position players, the Denver quarterback should be putting up fantasy points. So there's plenty there that the gambler can work on. Again, it's not the most exciting group, and it's not the most stable group neither. You don't know who's going to be starting between Bridgewater and Locke. Are they going to get switched out between games? You don't know how well Wentz is going to do. Is going to get injured? And I think mainly because of that, I have given the gambler a 3-star rating for this position group, because he has got the depth there for the time being. Moving on to running back, we have got Miles Sanders, Chase Edmonds, Tavius Murray, Tevin Coleman, we've got Brown, Fournette, Gus Edwards, we've got Michael Carter, and we have got Michael P. Ryan. Okay, so again, it's not the most exciting running back group. Sanders should start. Chase Edmonds at the moment is the perceived starter in Arizona. Outside of that right now, they're really the only two guaranteed starters. We don't know what Fournette's going to do in the split with Ronald Jones. We don't know how much time Michael Carter's going to get straight out the door, although I do imagine that he does start the majority of the game, so I think that could be a saving grace for the gambler, because really the only starters he's got are Sanders and Edmonds, and that's if Edmonds does start, so we could struggle for backup and depth in his running back group. Again, I'm not a massive fan of Miles Sanders. I think he's massively underperformed, although to be fair, he's performed to the level that I expected him to perform. I just didn't really like him coming out. Edmonds, again, hasn't done too much yet, so we'll see if he can take that. If he takes that starting job in Arizona and he performs well, then he will have a great fantasy season. But these are all ifs, so we don't know yet. I think what the gambler's going to be looking at is probably going to outleave Sanders. If Sanders is healthy, he's probably locked in, because it's his only guaranteed starter. And then it's going to be a case of, do I play Edmonds? Do I play Fournette? Do I play Carter? Do I drop any of them and put a wide receiver in flex? I think it might give him a bit of a headache, because there's no real superstar there. It's a lot of question marks, but there is a little bit of depth there. He's got maybe 4 guys that he can rotate. So again, it's not the end of the world. And I think because of that, I'd give the gamblers running back position group 3 stars. At wide receiver, we've got Calvin Ridley, Cooper Kupp, Cortland Sutton, Curtis Samuel, Marvin Jones, Darius Slayton, Pittman. Then we've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tamorrion Terry, and Gandy Golden. Right, okay, so we have got Calvin Ridley, who had a fantastic season last season. I haven't delved too much into how Ridley performs without Julio, and that could be a big tell. And if Pitts performs as well as what people are saying he's going to perform, he's going to take a lot of targets as well. Ridley's definitely got potential to still be a wide receiver 1 this season. I have an inkling that he might slip down and be a high-end wide receiver 2. Cortland Sutton coming back off his injury. This guy could quite easily be a wide receiver 1. He's got the alpha wide receiver 1 prototype. It's coming back off an injury. The quarterback play is a bit sketchy, and there's a bit more competition for targets there. Their offensive skill position players are very good. So it's going to be a bit of a waiting game with Sutton just to see how he performs this season. But there's high hopes there with him. Curtis Samuel, not really going to expect too much out of him. Again, I mean, he's been a wide receiver 3. He's not really been better. Wide receiver, the low-end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. I'm not too sure if that's going to improve this season. We'll have to see. We have got some depth though. So we've got Marvin Jones, who I think will probably be the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville, maybe at least target-wise. We've got Slayton, who can put up big weeks, but it's just knowing when to start him. Pittman, he can maybe take a jump up this year as well. So the position group itself is it's all at quite a good age, apart from Marvin Jones. Ridley, Kupp and Sutton, you still get a few more years out of them, and they could all perform. Sutton could be I don't imagine he will be this season. I imagine you're looking at wide receiver 2 numbers from Sutton if he can perform. Might take him a while to get back into it. Ridley can be a wide receiver 1 again. Kupp's got the potential to be a wide receiver 1, but I think you're probably looking at wide receiver 2. So it's not a bad group to have really all round, but I don't think it's going to win you any championships. And again, because of this, I've given the Gamblers wide receiver position group 3-star rating. So moving on to tight end then, the Gambler has got TJ Hawkinson, and then we have got Ricky Seals-Jones and Blake Jarwin, and that's it. So Hawkinson is obviously a fantastic starter. You're going to have him, he's locked into your starting position. When you can do that with a tight end, it's fantastic. You don't have to worry too much about it, apart from injuries and bye weeks. So when that does happen with Hawkinson, behind him we've got Ricky Seals-Jones, who is going to be behind Logan Thomas, you'd imagine, and he's also not really done anything as a tight end. Blake Jarwin has had a lot of promise, A lot of hype, sadly done nothing with it, which is part of the reason why I think I prefer Schultz going forward. We'll see if he does come back healthy, and if he can have a full healthy season, I suppose we might see what he can do. But at the moment, he's not someone you'd be able to start. One, because he's injured, or two, because he hasn't done anything. So you'd kind of be like crossing your fingers and hoping. So there is a bit of a depth issue there for the gambler at tight end. However, he has got one guy that I can just put in and leave in as long as he's not injured. That's kind of the saving grace for this. So I've given the gambler 3.5 stars for his tight end group. So overall, I think the gambler's teams, it's looking like it's set up pretty well. I've given him a total team rating of 3 stars. We've got some building blocks here. We've got an overall pretty rounded team actually, and I think this team just needs to continue building. A couple of good picks in a rookie draft, and it could propel this team a bit, I think, because we've got wide receivers who can be wide receiver ones. We've got a tight end who could be and really should be a high-end tight end one. The quarterbacks should be steady if unspectacular, and we've got the depth there. So I think really what all we're really lacking here is that superstar running back. You really need a superstar running back. I don't think Sanders is going to be able to do that, and I don't think any of the other ones on this team is going to be able to do that. But it is a pretty well-rounded team. It's not one of the worst teams in the league at all. So I think the gambler's doing pretty well with it. We just need to keep building. Okay, so moving on, we now have Bear Arse's team. So if we just open up this team here. Okay, quarterback, we've got Matt Ryan, Joe Burrow, we've got Cam Newton, Mac Jones, Jamie Newman. So we've basically got the Patriots quarterback. We've got Kellen Mond. Right, okay, so we've got 3 starters. Joe Burrow, Matt Ryan, and then basically the Patriots quarterback should be Cam Newton. We have got Mac Jones there as well. So straight off, not a bad start because we've got 3 guys, 2 positions we can play the quarterback in. So we've got a backup there for bye weeks, injuries. So it's not a bad start. It's not the most electric quarterback group. Joe Burrow's been struggling a bit this off-season. I hope he can turn that around and continue to improve. Matt Ryan's always been solid, to be fair. You might be looking at a quarterback 2, but most of the time he's been a quarterback 1 or thereabouts, and he has had the odd season where he's been absolutely fantastic. So Bear Arse will be hoping that that's the case this season for Matt Ryan as well. If it is, it will help him a hell of a lot, because Burrow could struggle, and we don't know how reliable the Patriots quarterbacks are going to be. But he has got the option to chop and change week to week, so it's not a bad start. I think because of that, I've gave Bear Arse's quarterback position group 3.5 stars. Moving on to the running backs, we have got Chris Carson. Bear Arse made a trade for Saquon Barkley. Then we have got Brady, Booker, Gaskin, David Johnson, AJ Dillon. So we've got, providing he isn't injured, we've got Saquon Barkley and Chris Carson, who should be the starters for their teams. Myles Gaskin, I think, is going to be in a committee, but is someone that you could start in your flex possibly. I don't think you'd be too happy starting him in your running back position directly, but depending on injuries in Miami as well, he could put up some running back 1 weeks. You've got AJ Dillon, who's going to play second fiddle to Aaron Jones. We don't know exactly what he's going to do this season, so that's going to be a bit of a wait. David Johnson, we have heard that he's going to basically lose some work this season, so we don't know exactly how much he's going to do neither. But he's got Barkley and Carson. Before the trade, he had ETN and Carson. This is a massive upgrade for him. If Barkley can get healthy and produce to the level that we all expected him to, it's been such a massive disappointment really since being labelled the best running back prospect, since Adrian Peterson, and really he had that one good season, his rookie season, and then he's been injured and not done a great deal. His second season was a low-end running back 1, which for the hype that he had and the price you had to pay to get him isn't what you want. You should see this finishing first in PPR, second in standard. This is what you want from Barkley. This is what people expect from Barkley. And really, you would imagine he's only got a couple of years left at the top of his game, so he needs to start producing. I'm sure Bear Arse made that trade thinking exactly that, because Bear Arse's running back position group definitely needed this. So with that in mind, I have given it 3.5 stars. If Barkley performs as he did in his rookie season, if he's fit and he's healthy, then that's going to ascend this team massively, because really that position group then you'd be looking at like 4 stars, 4.5 stars if Carson gets a lot of work as well. But again, not entirely too sure on the depth, because we don't know how much work Gaskin's going to get, or Dillon or Johnson. If you have to start them in bye weeks, you're not going to be too disappointed, you're not going to be too excited about it neither. I don't think it's going to lose you a week or win you a week. Moving on to wide receivers, which I think might be Bare Arse's best position group. We've got Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, DJ Chark, and then going on to the bench, we have got Terrace Marshall, Rashad Bateman. So starting wise, we've got 3 good starters there. We've got Godwin, who it could easily be a wide receiver 1. Obviously, there's a lot of competition in Tampa, but Godwin's done it before. He's a fantastic receiver. You're looking at, I think at worst, providing he's fit all season, you're looking at worst a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2, depending on how that ball gets distributed in Tampa between Gronk and Mike Evans and Godwin. Amari Cooper, bit of an enigma, has some great weeks, has some really bad weeks, and with CD Lamb there and Gallup and Zeke, it's going to be a case of how much work does he get. I think that tends to be why he has some great weeks and some bad weeks. But as a wide receiver, to having your second wide receiver spot, I can't see any problem with that. Again, Amari Cooper's got the potential to be a wide receiver 1. I think more likely you're looking at wide receiver 2, as has been shown, to be fair, throughout most of his career. He's only ever been at a low-end wide receiver 1 once. The rest of the time he's really been a wide receiver 2. DJ Chark, again, potential to be a wide receiver 1 in a good offense. Don't think that's going to happen this year with Chenault taking a leap, or supposed taking a leap. He finished really strong at the end of last year. And also Marvin Jones, who I think is going to be the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville. He's been a wide receiver 2 once. He has been injured and missed games. But again, the potential's there, and he can give you some really good weeks. He can win you a week. He can put up some big weeks for you. Barras has also got some really good depth, mainly youth prospects, young prospects, such as Terrace Marshall, Rashad Bateman. But he's got them guys there. Bateman's been injured, but if he comes back fit, he could be week-to-week filler for bye weeks. And Terrace Marshall, who is looking really good in pre-season, I think he could have quite a good impact as a rookie. So again, you've got someone there who can fill one of your flex spots if needed. I've given this position group for Barras 4 stars. It's probably his best position group. Definitely potential to put your team right up there in the playoffs and give you a chance to win. For tight ends then, we have got Dallas Goedert, Hunter Henry, Cole Kmet, Mike Gesicki. That's a really strong position group, I think. The issue is Hunter Henry moving to New England along with Jonnu Smith, and also he's been injured. I'm not exactly sure that he's going to have the season that people think he might do. Goddard is going to be your tight end 1. I think Ertz is on his way out. It's yet to be seen, obviously. We don't know what the split's going to be, but if Goddard can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a tight end 1 in Philadelphia, and I think he's going to be someone you put in that tight end spot and you leave him. So that's not the end of the world. Then you've got Kmet, who people are hoping can take a leap this season as well. He's only still young. It's only going to be his second season, so I wouldn't expect anything too mega, but again, for a bye week filler, I think it'd be absolutely fine. Gesicki as well, his tendency to have some really good weeks again and then do nothing for a few weeks as well. He had his best season last season. Let's see if we can continue that on again. If he can, I think you're more likely to be starting Gesicki than Hunter Henry. It's a pretty good position group. There's no one there yet that has ascended to be one of the best tight ends in the league, but Goddard, I think, has got a chance to do that this season. But until we see it, I've gave this position group 3.5 stars. That if Goddard has an excellent season, then that's obviously going to go up. I think this is a really good team overall. Barras has done a really good job improving this. If the quarterbacks can perform and the running backs can perform, I think that's what his team's all going to be based around. What the quarterbacks do and how well the running backs perform, if they can stay fit. If that happens, then Barras will be contending this year, 100%. And I've actually given Barras' overall team 3.5 stars. For the penultimate team then, we have got Kluska 17, so let's just open his team up. So quarterback, we have got Justin Herbert, Jameis Winston, Derek Carr, we've got Brissett, Mariota. Okay, so we've basically got the Raiders quarterback, we've got the backup in Miami, we've got a perceived starter in New Orleans. Whether that's the case or not is yet to be seen, but I do imagine he is going to start. And then we've got Justin Herbert. That's a pretty good quarterback group, I think, actually. Herbert is young, and if he keeps on performing the way he did last season and improving, he should only improve, then he's going to be a quarterback that you can have in your starting lineup for years to come. If Jameis Winston gets a start in New Orleans, you imagine he's going to put up some fantasy points. So again, great person to have in your starting lineup. And we've got the depth of basically the Raiders quarterback, so Derek Carr, who can have some great weeks as well. So that's a really good position group. In fact, I have given that position group 4 stars. That's obviously taken into account what I think they can do this season and going forward as well. For Kluska's running back group, we've got Antonio Gibson, Ronald Jones, and we have got Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon. So we've got the Denver running back there. I imagine they're going to possibly split work to start the season, and then we might have one of them take over. Which one it is, we'll have to wait and see. So we've got there 3 running backs basically. Gibson, I think, is going to have a really good year. He's one that you can just put in that lineup and leave it. Ronald Jones, not so much. I don't know. It's going to be tough to see what happens with him and Fournette. Never been much of a fan of Ronald Jones. He's not been a massively productive running back. In fact, he's been running back 2 his last season. He was a running back 3 before that. I don't envisage him being a running back 1. I think you're talking low-end running back 2. So that's something that can definitely be improved here. Whether that gets replaced with Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams, you just hope, if you're Kluska, that you don't have to have a headache every week deciding which one of them 2 to start. Overall, it is a pretty weak position group for Kluska. It might be one of his weakest. He's got what we hope is a really good starter in Gibson. And then after that, it's going to be a case of, do I play Gordon or Javonte, or do I leave Jones in, or do I try and play them all at the expense of leaving someone else out? So it's going to give him more headaches than I think anything else. So overall, I'll give this position group 3 stars. At wide receiver for Kluska, I think what we've got is all the potential in the world and Old Man Landry. So we've got DK Metcalf, Jarvis Landry, Jerry Jeudy, we've got Robbie Anderson, and we've got Jalen Waddle, we've got Henry Ruggs, we've got Devonta Smith. So there's bags of potential there. DK Metcalf, you're obviously hoping that he can carry on his development. He's had a really good first 2 seasons in the NFL, finishing as a wide receiver 1 in his 2nd year. If he can do that again and finish even roughly the same, that'll be great for Kluska. And then what you're hoping is that Landry can, because Landry's been declining, you're hoping that he can maybe get back up to a high-end wide receiver 2, and you're hoping that Robbie Anderson can do the same, although we don't know what the quarterback play is going to be like in Carolina, especially if Sam Darnold starts. You're hoping Jeudy can take a massive leap. There's a lot of hope with Kluska's wide receiver group. You've got Waddle, hoping Waddle can show something his rookie season, hoping Devonta Smith can show something his rookie season. So it's a lot of ifs and question marks and hopes, but there's absolute bags of potential with this wide receiver group. We know what Metcalf, we know he's going to be good. People think Judy's going to be good, we're hoping he's going to be good. We know what we've got with Landry and Robbie Anderson. We don't know what we've got yet with Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith. If one of them 2 can have a mega rookie season, then I think Kluska's going to be in a really good position going forward. He's got the guys with the potential, which now it just now needs one of these guys to do something with that potential to put this team on the map, get them in the playoffs consistently, and then with a few more pieces, hopefully push for a championship. Overall, I have given Kluska's wide receiver group 3 stars. Now, that might be a bit harsh because at the moment, it looks really good on paper, but a lot of it's hype and hope, so we're going to have to wait and see. Again, if Waddle or Smith or even Jeudy takes the next step, then that rating's going to easily shoot up to maybe 3.5, 4 stars, especially if two or more of them do. And if that happens, it will be one of the strongest wide receiver groups in the league, I think. So moving on to Kluska's tight end position group, we've got Austin Hooper, who didn't really live up to the expectations, moving to Cleveland. And then we have got Eric Ebron, and then we've got a couple of developmental guys in Troutman and Freiermuth. Now Freiermuth's getting a lot of hype, but he is a rookie. Troutman has been getting a lot of hype, but again, he didn't do much in his rookie year. So they're 2 guys that we need to wait and see. Everyone's been solid really for the last couple of years, nothing spectacular. He'll have some really good weeks and then a couple of bad weeks. And again, Austin Hooper hasn't really lived up to the hype since moving to Cleveland. So where did he actually finish? Yeah, so he had quite a bad year last year. You might be more inclined to actually start Ebron over Hooper if that continues, to be fair. What Kluska will be hoping is that Troutman can take over that starting tight end role and run with it this year. And also be hoping that Freiermuth is a top prospect as everyone thought he was. So if that happens, then that depth is going to increase massively and he's going to be able to pick and choose a tight end on a weekly basis. At the moment, it's yet to be waited and seen. Everyone's probably his best starting tight end currently, unless Hooper can take a massive leap and have a better year in Cleveland this year. And because of that, I have gave Kluska's tight end group 3 stars. So overall, Kluska's team, I have given a rating of 3.25, which is actually probably in the top half of the league, but definitely in the top half of the league. It might be one season away from actually contending, but this is the thing with fantasy football. This could go either way. He's got so much hope and hype in this team. All it's going to take is a few of them to reach that potential, and this team is going to be skyrocketing. Conversely, if it goes the other way and these guys don't meet the potential, then he's going to find himself in a bit of a tough spot again, having to try and get the right guys in. But it's looking pretty good for Klusker, I think. It might be one season away. If some of these guys develop and perform how we think, and it can do some magic in the draft again, then this team's going to be one to look forward to. And for the final team, we have got one more up dangerous, so it's Woke and Julian's team. So this one's going to be pretty easy, I think. So looking at the quarterbacks, we've got Lamar Jackson, we've got Dak Prescott, we've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, and we've also got Case Keenum there. So as far as starting quarterbacks go, probably the best starting pair in the league, Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott, providing Prescott can come back from his injury and perform as he was doing before. So much great talent in his offensive skill positions that it'd be hard not to do well. And you've also got Fitzmagic, who will just throw the ball up and he can put up some fantasy points. There's not a great deal to be said about this position group. Again, it's probably the best starters in the league. So if they perform as expected, it's going to give Woke a massive leg up already from his first starting position group. So that's a 5-star for me. He's got probably the best 2 starters in the league, and he's got a backup to put in on bye weeks and injuries. Moving on to the running backs, again we have got Christian McCaffrey, we've got Zeke, we've got Austin Eckler, and we have got Joe Mixon. So you've got 4 starters there. Again, you can't ask for more than that. It's probably the best running back position group in the league overall, including the depth as well. If McCaffrey can get back up to the level he was playing at in 2018, 2019, he's a league winner. If Zeke can get back up there, Mixon, I think we know what Mixon is at this point. He's probably been hampered by the team he's been on as well, to be fair, because I think he's so much better than what he's been able to do. And then you've got Austin Eckler as well, who's been pretty solid. So you've got 4 guys there who you can plug and play. He's got bye week cover. It's the best running back position group in the league, without a doubt. So the only issue with this is that some of these guys are getting a bit older, and they'll probably want to be moved on soon. Although I think if Woke was to win the league again this season, it won't care about that. If you win the league 2 years in a row, especially the first 2 years, I won't care if we had to blow it up and start again. So Woke's running back position group, I give him 4.5 stars. The only reason it isn't a 5-star group is because they are getting up in age. If it was maybe 4 younger guys, then it would have been 5 stars. There is also some injury concerns as well surrounding McCaffrey and Elliott. So at wide receiver, which I think actually might be Woke's weakest position group, so we've got Stephon Diggs, who had a fantastic season last season, Deontay Johnson, we've got Paris Campbell in there, Keenan Allen, Travis Fulgham, we've got Julio, we've got Elijah Moore, Will Fuller, and then some developmental guys for Hoko Surratt. So Diggs was a wide receiver 1 last year. It was the actual wide receiver 3 on the season. Previous to that, he's really been a wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1. If he can repeat, that'll be great for Woke. There's no guarantee of that though, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But you would imagine at worst you're talking probably a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. Deontay Johnson, I think he's going to struggle a bit this year. He's obviously got competition with Chase Claypool and Juju as well. He finished as a low-end wide receiver 2. I think you might be looking at the same range or even mid-range wide receiver 2. But then when you've got Keenan Allen, who again, really you're talking anywhere between mid-wide receiver 1 to high-end wide receiver 2, if he can keep performing. He's getting up there in age, so again, that's going to be someone that you're hoping doesn't drop off too soon. And then you've got Julio, who, apart from the odd season, is a perennial high-end wide receiver 1. So he had quite a bad season last season with injuries. If he follows his usual trend, he's probably going to be a mid to high end wide receiver 1 this year. Obviously he can't bank on that, but this is just what he's done throughout his career. So it's a pretty good wide receiver group. Will Fuller as well when he's not on the roids, but he's on a new team. So his final finishes have never been that good, but what Will Fuller's got is a potential to win you a week. So it's someone who's put in your flex and, you know, just hope he goes off and wins you the week. Again, it's a solid, if unspectacular, wide receiver group. I think it's Woke's weakest position group, and because of that I've given it 4 stars. If you're starting Diggs and Allen and they both play to how they can play to their potential, then your position group's absolutely fine, providing you've got the depth for bye weeks, which Woke has. Moving on to tight ends then, and again we have got what is probably the best position group in the league. We've got George Kittle, Darren Waller. I don't think you're going to get 2 better starters than that on any other team in this league. Then after the trouble Trouble is, after that, there's not a great deal. But because you've got two, chances of them both being down at the same time is quite slim. You're always going to have one to put in that tight end position. So that's a 5-star position group for me. This team is obviously the best team in the league. It won the league last season. It's got a great shot to win the league again this season. And then I think after that might be the time to maybe start mini rebuild, blowing some things up. Maybe, after this season, you might want to be moving on from Zeke. Depending on what Jackson does, you might want to be moving on from him. Running quarterbacks don't tend to have long shelf lives. It might be different, but we'll see. Waller, depending on what Waller does this season as well, might be time to move on. Mixon, it might be time to move on from McCaffrey as well, who'll be 26 next season. But yeah, overall, it's definitely the best team in the league. It's got the best position group. So overall, the team rating is 4.5 stars. That's the best rating that I've given to any team. And I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that neither.